Your business will only grow to the level at which that you are willing to be seen. Standing out, being front of center in your business, building a personal brand, being the go-to authority in your field can feel like the most obnoxious thing in the world. Yes, it's audacious. Yes, it makes you feel insane. Yes, Janet next door is going to have something to say about it. But this, my friends, is absolutely critical in business, especially as AI, tech, and automation are taking over, and it's becoming easier and easier for anyone to create content. The way that you make people feel is your brand, and that can only come from your true character and personality that surrounds your underpinning framework that is powered by AI, tech, and automation in your business. If you're ready to grow, let's now talk about the audacity, the obnoxiousness, and the absolute unapologetic necessity for you to step out as a personal brand and shine in your full glory as who you are today, and how important it is that that brand, that messaging, and how you show up in the world continuously evolves and iterates if you want to stay relevant and if you want to keep making money. Let's go. You're working your butt off in your business, but some days it feels like you're shoveling water with a fork and like you're surviving another game of real life Jumanji. No matter how hard you push, no matter how many strategies you implement, no matter what tool you go and get, it just feels like you can never quite reach that point of profit, of peace, of purpose, of impact, and have fun and a life at the same time. And just when you feel like you've got your head around last week's must-do strategy, boom, now there's a different one. Now there's another tool. Now the goo-poos are telling you to do something else. It's like your to-do list just keeps on breeding, and now it's packing up and going and getting itself therapy. And yet, the whole reason you started a business in the first place is because you knew you wanted to make an impact. You wanted to help people. You wanted to actually make some profit and, maybe have a life too, right? Well, my friend, have no fear. Welcome to the Sarah Cordiner Show, where I take my 20 years plus worth of business experience building a seven-figure company or two, and all of the messiness of entrepreneurship, mindset, and all of the lessons and strategies that I've learned in that time through traditional business, but also now how you can implement the strategies for growth, for impact, for income, for fun, with the power of tech, AI, and automation underpinning your brilliance. I'm going to be taking you through implementable, practical tips in every single episode so that you can turn everyday business into successful outcomes. So if you're ready to start having some more fun and a bigger impact, and of course, getting the ka-ching rolling back into your bank account, you're in the right place here at the Sarah Cordiner Show. Let's go. So hello and welcome to this very first episode of the Sarah Cordiner Show. And first of all, I want to address the elephant in the room. And that, my friends, is that this used to be called the Course Creators Podcast. And I've now been obnoxious enough to change it to my own name, the freaking Sarah Cordiner Show. And I want to talk to you about why that has happened and why this is important for you to learn about. And I'm going to take you through a few strategies today around when you need to decide if it's time to evolve or iterate or shift or pivot in your business. Because if you're living and breathing and the clock is still ticking and the sun's still coming up and going down and you're growing at all, you've got to find time to iterate and reevaluate where you're at, where you're going now, what's important to you now, because those things shift because of your life circumstances, because of what's going on in the marketplace, because of what customers need, because of pandemics come along, because tech, AI, and automation are now taking over the world. And just sometimes you change your mind, and it's okay to evolve. I want to talk to you about how you are going to determine how you show up in your business from this day forward, and how you are going to take your business to the dream, the goal, or the vision that you have for the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Why did you start your business in the first place? And explain a little bit of my own evolution so that we can feed and wrap this into what you need to be doing today. All right, so let's go. Now, calling this the Sarah Cordiner Show and changing it from the Course Creators Podcast was a really big deal. And I actually procrastinated about this for about 7 years. So I started the Course Creators podcast, I think in about 2014, 2015. So at the time recording this, a good decade ago. And that's because back then, I was very much focused on supporting course creators. I was still teaching building your business, building your brand, doing marketing, using tech and automation to scale and grow. The topic I teach haven't changed. That was good English, wasn't it? The topic I teach hasn't changed, but who I'm targeting at has expanded as my reach and as my brand has grown and expanded over the past decade. And for you, it may be a similar story. Now, funny story is one of the things I think is important about owning who we are and stepping into our name, our brand, our vision comes from usually the thing that we are hiding behind the most. And let's face it, usually it's what people think of us. What will they think of me? What will they say about me? What if I get trolled? What if I get criticized? What will my friends think? What will my neighbors think? What will my old mate from primary school think? What will they think? They're going to think all kinds of things. And the point is, you can't change what people think about you. But what we do when we hear messages about us, about how we make people feel, about the impact that we're making, we're receiving really clear communication about the way that our brand is touching them and impacting them. And therefore, whether that's what we want and therefore do more of that, multiply that messaging, multiply how they're hearing it and getting in front of that messaging. Or if we're going, whoa, that's not what we wanted people to think and feel about us, maybe we need to make a change. This stuff that comes back to you is important. Now, I used to get told by people who I think were probably intimidated by me. I mean, let's face it, I'm a little bit out there. They would say things like, oh God, it's the Sarah Cordiner Show. In fact, one of my worst business experiences of my entire life was when I was running my course creation boot camps. Now, they were brilliant, but there was one particular one where after much begging and pleading and begging and harassing me, one of my students asked if they could come along to one of my course creation boot camps, which back then were 5 days long, and if they could add on some training at the end in their area of expertise, which was marketing and hacking, basically, like marketing hacking to get out there more. And this person basically just did not enjoy the fact that they were attending my boot camp that I'd been running for years. By the end of that boot camp, I said, how did it go? Sat there like a petulant child and just said, it was the Sarah Cordiner Show. This is where I actually sat there back then and thought, well, yeah, duh, it's my event. It's my process. It's my framework. It's my model. It's my curriculum. It's my content. And people have come here because they're my followers, right? I want you to, instead of seeing being a personal brand, leading with your face and your voice and your messaging up front as obnoxious and audacious and self-centered, and instead see it as a responsibility. It's a responsibility to your business because every business needs a leader, and a leader is someone who's out front, trailblazing the pathway. It's the one leading with the message, the ideas, the vision, sharing the good news of what you do and how you can change their lives. If you are not out front, who's the leader? Nobody has anyone to follow, whether it's inside your business, your team and your staff, or whether it's out there in the marketplace, your followers, your fans, your customers, your clients. You need to hold being out there as a brand as a responsibility in your job description. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is realizing that by being you, by being yourself, by being authentic, by sharing your voice and your message, how it comes out of you, how it emanates off of your soul, directly impacts and touches and transforms the biological, physiological, spiritual, and action-taking energetics of the people who are there receiving it. By you being you, and I get told this when I run my boot camps and events all the time. They say, by you being you, by you being up there on the stage, wearing your sparkly clothes, having fun, enjoying it, you give me permission to be myself. You give me permission to go out there and be more of who I am. You give me permission and courage to go and have fun and express myself in my full version of who I really am too. Now, if that isn't a compliment, as a business owner, as an educator, as a leader, I don't know what is. And if that isn't true influence, then I don't know what is. When we think about our why we're doing what we want to do, what is that long-term 5-year, 10-year vision for you and for your business? You need to be asking yourself, but why does that matter? If your goal is to sell your business for $50 million before you're 50, if your goal is to impact 100 million entrepreneurs, if your goal is to save one person's life, whatever it might be, ask yourself, why is that important? Why is that meaningful to me? If I was to clock it tomorrow, will I feel like I have in some way spent my life well? Because everything you're doing right now, you are exchanging your life for, you're exchanging your time for, quite literally. And so for me, yes, I get my deep sense of purpose from people saying, thanks to you, I've launched my thing, I've launched a course, I've set up my membership, I've made an automation, I've finally got more followers, I'm finally making the money I want. Brilliant. Those things to me absolutely light me up and give me the greatest sense of joy ever, because that's my job, right? I'm supposed to do that. That's what I promise people I'm going to help them do. But what actually brings the tears to my eyes, that makes me cry in just this deep sense of, I can't believe I get to do this, is when people say, thank you, you've changed my life. And thank you, because of you, I now have the courage and the inspiration and the permission to go and do what I want to do, to go and do and be and live and make my dream happen. Thank you for giving me the knowing, the understanding, the steps, but the inspiration and courage to actually go and do it. That for me is so much of a different definition of impact and influence, that for me is the underarching purpose of why I do what I do. So I want you to, first of all, today, write down, what is your big, massive 5-year goal? Now, I was listening to a podcast by Dan Martell. He's a SaaS dude. I love him recently. And he was actually talking something very similar about this recently. And he used a really cool example in terms of this big 5-year goal. What is it for you? If you're not sure, you're going, I don't know. Why did you start your damn business? Like, if it's the greatest success ever, what's happening? He used the example of Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Gary V. He said, if anyone who follows Gary V, you will know that he's got like this most completely random aspiration to buy the New York Jets sports team, right? So all he's doing his business for. Now, I'm sure there's more to it, but he basically, everyone just knows that his ridiculous goal is to buy this $1 billion sports team, right? Because it's a big goal of his. So that's his driver. That's his why. That's his mission behind his vision. So with you, what is it? What is the big, crazy, audacious goal? Then ask yourself, why do I want that? Why would that be meaningful? If I was gone, 5, 10, 20, 30 plus years after I've achieved that, what do I want people to say about me? What do I want people to think about me? What do I want the world to say I've done? What do I want 1 or 2 people to say I did for them? Why does it all matter? Because once you get clear on that, you understand why it's important for you to put your face in front of that camera. I know some of you would rather knock your own teeth out than go and put yourself right in front of the barrel of a lens of a camera, right? It's not comfortable. It's not natural to do that. But when you understand your why, and importantly, the people or the places or the environment or whatever it is that you are going to change, then that purpose becomes bigger than your fear. It becomes bigger than this concern you have about what Janet next door is going to say about you because you put a video on Facebook, right? It becomes bigger than, what if someone says something mean about me? Of course, they're going to say something mean about you. It's the internet, right? It's a free world out there, and damn, is it the Wild West. Anyone can say whatever they want. And some people spend their whole entire living occupation purposely finding people to troll because they have nothing else to do. These people are not your customers. They're not who you're targeting. So stop focusing on what might go wrong and instead focus on what might go right. Please, for the love of all the gods, focus on the what might go right, who I might help, who I might be able to support, whose life I could be able to change, of the people that are going to say thank you. That's what we need to focus on, because you can only make that happen if you get over yourself. If you get over, but what will they think about me? Turn the mirror around and look up at the 8 billion people that are out there worried about themselves, their own problems, what people are thinking about them getting criticized and trolled. They don't care about us. They don't. You don't care about me as much as I care about me. You don't. You don't think about, well, what if Sarah puts up an embarrassing post every time you wake up and brush your teeth in the morning? Do you? Some of you never even heard of me before. Now get this, talking about never being heard of before. Did you know that by the 3rd generation of your own family, as in your own great-grandchildren, they won't even know your name? What? Brutal. And I'll ask you this. Do you know the first name, last name, and place of birth of your great-grandparents? Do you? Some of you might. I know there's some genealogists out there, but most people don't. So you're sat here worried about if someone's going to be like, oh, look at her putting herself out online. Oh my God, here's Sarah Cordiner goes with another post on Facebook again. You're worried about, whether your shirt looks nice and your hair's good enough and your teeth are straight enough, whether you've made a spelling mistake or the web page is perfectly aligned or formatted with the right tone of blue in it. You're worried about these things and these judgments about putting yourself out there as a personal brand, and your own freaking grandkids aren't going to know that you exist. Let's just take things into perspective, right? You need to be posting and sharing your thought process. You need to be messily human. You need to show up as you, who you are, the person I would meet on the street, if you want to convert your sales, if you want to be seen. Because get this, now that we have AI determining who is trustworthy in business based on the content that they've created, based on the resources that have been put out into the world, based on the schema and citations that it's scrolling through as part of your overall digital footprint. AI is now choosing who is sent traffic your way when they do ChatGPT searches or searches in any of the AI language models. When they get there, when they get sent to you, they need to meet the soul and the character and the personality of the human being that AI has referred them to. And this is critical because the AI does the referring of the traffic now, but the human is still the one that's handing over the cash to a human. That decision buying moment, or that buying decision making moment, is a fundamentally human one. And when it comes to services, coaching, education, speaking, thought leadership, in any industry, in any kind of business, even if you're selling lipstick, it comes down to, does that lipstick work for somebody like me and someone like them is selling it? Higher sales. So my friends, are you currently showing up as the version of yourself that is going to be living that confident, that business vision, that impact making, that profit generating business that you're dreaming of having in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Because unless you start stepping into that identity now, really clearly seeing what does he or she look like? How do they dress? How do they show up? What does their personality feel like? What do they make other people feel like? What impact are they leaving behind them when they walk out of a room? What energy are they creating? If you haven't got clear on that, you will never get there. This means giving yourself absolutely unbridled permission to go out there and be more of who you are, to leak your energy and your essence of who you are all over the place, in your writing, in your blog posts, in your videos, in your podcasts, in your social media posts, when you're having coffee, when you're at network meetings, whatever it is you're doing with your clients and customers. They should feel the energy of that identity. So you get to decide who that is. Are you crazy and fun and bubbly and make people laugh and humorous? Are you more gentle and calm and peaceful? Are you grounded and stoic and strong but safe and sturdy? Whatever it is, you need to work that out. Now, I strongly recommend, if you haven't done your brand archetype assessment, that you do it. This changed my life. Now, I do have a link for this. It's about $30. It's not ridiculously expensive. It will change your entire brand, communication, and how you communicate and talk to your industry. Simply go to sarahcordiner.com/links. And at the bottom of that link page, you will find the brand archetype assessment. Now, the reason why this is so powerful is it basically works out what actually is your brand personality, as in the way that you show up, the way that you make people feel, and therefore how you speak, how you write, how you talk, how you engage with people. When you have this, and when I got this done, it was absolute permission for me to turn up that light brighter, for me to go out there bigger, for me to turn on more of my voice, because I come from corporate and academia. Now, for those of you who don't know, I did 2 degrees in adult education, teacher training, curriculum design. It's where I started my business. And my business was predominantly providing curriculum design and education services and teaching to large corporate organizations. My first clients were top Fortune 500 companies, top listed ASX listed companies, government, universities, colleges. I was going into these organizations and institutions and writing training and curriculum for them against the nationally recognized and accredited training. So it was very formal, very academic. I later went on to become the executive director and head of campus of Australia's leading university at the time. And again, you can imagine being in academia, very, very straight, very, very formal, very, very, and I got told by my chancellor, Sarah, tone it down a bit. You might intimidate them. Obviously, I turned it up, but you get put into these boxes from your experience. You get shaped by society to be who you think society or your audience or your network wants you to be. We get told through programming, through historical lineage, that this is how you're supposed to show up to be respected or to have credibility. As a young woman, I started my business at 19 years old, getting these corporate contracts, right? So there's me, 19 years old, blonde and female. I can tell you now, I felt like I had to work extremely hard to obtain credibility, a professional reputation, and to be respected by the kind of clients that I was working for because of the age, because I was a blondie bimbo and so young, right? And this is where I went through a phase of I dyed my hair brown when I'm a blondie. I wore really drab, formal, dark gray, black suits. I was actually teaching in prisons for a period of time through my teaching degree. And I got told, I want you to wear clothes that are 3 times too big for you and are completely baggy and do not touch your skin in any way. And that wasn't just for my own safety, being in an all-male category B prison. It was because of the fact that my boss at the time thought that the prisoners wouldn't respect me based just on how I looked. Now, I want people to know that is not how respect and credibility and reputation is built, right? Your physical appearance has nothing to do with this. And let me ask you, just in case you're like, well, yes, it does, Sarah. Like, it's all right for you. You fall out of the womb looking pretty and hot in a mankini. Wrong, right? If you signed up to a university degree and your university lecturer, the best in the world, the leading public publisher and researcher in this topic, the person who had made the biggest discoveries in their field of expertise, they rocked up to the front of the room and they weren't pretty. Would you now say, well, this person can't teach me anything because they don't look hot in a mankini? Of course you wouldn't. Would you look at all the lovely books on the shelves of the libraries, books that changed the trajectory of our literature, of our cultures, books that changed people's lives? Would you open up those books and go, right, every author who isn't hot, sexy, and beautiful in a bikini, you're gone. Books getting burned, taking you off the shelf. I only pretty people around here. Of course you wouldn't. Your brand, your reputation, your credibility has very, very little to do with whether you are sexy by whatever the frick that means in today's modern world. Right? Can we just park that, chuck it in the bin? We're done here. Your brand Your reputation, your credibility is about the way that you are being, the way that you're behaving, the way you do what you do, the quality of customer service that you provide, actually delivering on your promises, showing up consistently for a long period of time, and sharing and educating and contributing to the body of knowledge within your industry and your field. That, my friend, is what builds reputation and credibility, not how you look. It is how you make people feel. And getting your brand archetype done is a really smart way to then leverage how you show up with everything else, how then your brand design is informed, how your colors are used to amplify who you naturally are as a person, and how those feelings and how those services then are delivered, the experience that people get around what they buy from you and having it delivered or finished in their hands, right? So I recommend that you get that done next. Okay, let's switch gears a tiny little bit and talk about, do we niche? Do we not niche? Do we go broad? How do we kind of start with this growth process, looking, at the element of the evolution of this particular show, right? Now, I believe that there are different levels of expansion that you might go through based on how long you've been in business and or the reach or size audience that you're working with. I strongly believe that when you're just starting out in business, so hello, those of you that are new, welcome to the journey. Woo, strap on in there, my friend. This is where niching and having a very specific niche is really powerful. Now, by the way, I'm not saying I'm the only right person in this, okay? This is my personal opinion. I believe, and from my own experience, niching at the beginning is the most powerful starting power move you can make. Because when you have one particular audience, so for me, I specifically just went after course creators. Yes, I was teaching business building. Yes, I was teaching marketing. Yes, I was teaching email marketing, software development, setting up your online courses, all the things required to build a successful business. I targeted that exclusively at course creators, because I had come from a background of education that I could leverage. I'd come from having qualifications in that space that I could use as my unfair bragging rights. And I knew that industry well enough to confidently talk to anyone and answer any question from that specific group of people. And by niching in this teeny tiny space, back then, by the way, was tiny. There wasn't a whole world of course creators out there back then when I first started. I can assure you it was the teeniest niche you could possibly imagine. I had such a small target that it was really easy for me to find those people. It was really easy for me to talk to course creators, find course creators, and have course creators identify themselves as I'm the person that can help. I was able to dominate a whole entire industry very, very quickly because I specifically saturated one market. I became the only go-to person in that space very quickly. I was pretty much, I do believe, the very first ever qualified course creation coach out there in the world, because I got there just before everyone went online, just as Udemy began, the first ever open platform that everyday people could go and create courses on. Because before that, it was only big institutions and universities that could afford the tens of thousands of dollars a month for those big e-learning platforms that existed back then. So by dominating a field, which today, when there are so many more people online, and there technically is by volume more competition, the more niche you go, the easier it is for you to slice through and hone in like a psychopathic bull in a china shop for that exact same goal that you want. You can be the freaking pirate that literally has a honing device straight to that treasure trove, straight there, because you know exactly who you're going for and how to find them and where to reach them. I knew that all I had to do was go, where do course creators shop? What tools do course creators use? It was so easy. And to this day, over 15 years later, if you go to ChatGPT and say, who's the best course creation coach in the world? My name is going to come up somewhere on that list. How mad is that? Now, what happens over time? Niche to begin with. What started happening with my course creators as I was in that niche and only working with that tiny pool of people is I started to see opportunities for expansion. So I started to see where those course creators, I helped them create their courses. And now they were like, well, how do I do the filming? So teaching filming and editing tools. And then they said, well, how do I now set up all of the tech? So instead of doing it for them, which was what my services used to be, I then started teaching them how to set up their own e-learning platforms. So I became the first ever partner with Thinkific. I became one of the first ever educator partners with ActiveCampaign. I ended up becoming an affiliate partner for all of the top e-learning platforms and creating tons of educational content that went out to the ever-growing market of course creation and became the absolute undeniable authority in setting up courses tech for course creators. And then people went, cool, now we've got a course and it's on a platform. How do we do the marketing? So I was teaching them how I'd been marketing mine for years, the strategies that I'd used to become a go-to well-known authority in my little niche. I started teaching them how I was doing my email marketing, how I was doing my content creation, and all the other stuff that came with it. So by starting with this one key light, this one key flag, the one key lamppost, all the little moths could come and fly to it. When they were there for the create a course bit, then I opened up the whole buffet and said, come and join my academy. And I've got all this other stuff in there for you. But for the next 10 years, I continued only targeting course creators, even though everything in there was for any business owner. Now, I stuck with the consistency and the frequency of showing up in that space. I have consistently posted every single day for years in that topic of building your business, tech and automation, marketing and brand building, in the brackets of course creators for a really, really long time. But as a few years passed, over 10 of them, I soon realized that there were new opportunities for me. I had made these tech companies that I'd been working with for decades, right? But they're by this point, a decade by this point, like Thinkific and Kajabi and ActiveCampaign and all of those other e-learning platforms, right? I had made them collectively millions of dollars from the affiliate marketing and affiliate promotion that I had done. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd earned a heck of a lot of commission too, right? There was one point where I think I was almost bringing in $20,000 a month just in affiliate commission. So like, it's not like I didn't win from this, of course. However, what I started to see was this inspiring fire inside me that was like, hang on a minute. I'm doing all the marketing for this tech company. I'm getting the clients to sign up. Then I'm setting them up and doing all the work. Then they're coming to me for the ongoing support and they're getting me to coach them through creating the products and everything else that goes with it. Why aren't I doing this for myself? Little chin tap. And so I started thinking, how can I build my own platform so that all this work I'm doing actually stays within my ecosystem instead of going out to other people's? And it wasn't until that thought started percolating for a few years when COVID came along and everyone's prices got tripled on them. You know, everyone's email service providers increased the price. They kept increasing the price as people's email lists grow. Damn, it's so unfair to keep getting punished as you grow. And then people started getting their calendar booking system charging them more, their e-learning platform charging them more. I was literally about to have a baby, and all of a sudden my overheads increased by 3 times overnight as well. And so this was the moment for me when I went, right, it's time for me to do something about this. And that's when I started Techmatics. And of course, from that point onwards, and that's been 4 years now, from that point onwards, it shifted from just course creators to all business owners. Now, because I had worked so freaking hard for over a decade in building authority in this small niche, I had then built a fan base of loyal customers who loved me, loved my work, and loved everything I told them to do. So when I launched Techmatics, it became a quote unquote overnight success. I did a live stream in my fluffy socks on Facebook and said, guys, I'm ditching all the software that you know I've been obsessed with for a decade. I've shut down all my accounts and I've moved here. Insert Techmatics. And I had 754 people put their name down for the free trial overnight, right? This was huge. And this is where for me, I then realized that I had shifted from just course creators to doing what I've done forever, but open to all business owners. Now, over the last 4 years of running Techmatics, however, I didn't do an overnight change with my brand. I carried on consistently, persistently, frequently, daily, continuing to show up and support and teach in all of the same things that I've been continuing to teach for years. However, I now have people come and say, oh, I had no idea you were a course creation person. I've only ever seen you as a tech person, despite the fact that for the majority of my adult life, course creation was my only identity. So what we've done here and why this has moved from the Course Creators podcast to the Sarah Cordiner Show and why I'm talking to you about this today is how would your natural evolution expand? And what would it look like if you had this core niche that you attract people to? But over time, as you get bigger, these onion layers kind of start to grow around it. I like using the spider web analogy actually a lot, where, the spider sits right in the middle of the web. That's your core thing, your core topic, your core message. And your rings that you add around it become the thing that people would do next. And then you move outside of the ring to do the next thing next. And then they move outside of the ring again to do whatever comes after that. You get the point. This web keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so over time, what happens is your personal brand grows and it actually becomes more about you, that beautiful spider in the middle, the brand, you, that is actually what's known rather than the rings on the web, which is the things that you're teaching. So the difference between when you're starting a business and no one knows who you are, it's about the topic, it's about who you're teaching, and it's about what you teach and the outcome you get people. Now, although those important things never go away, the difference is that over time, as your reputation grows, as you build up more of an audience, as you get bigger and get more followers, you put more rings on your spider's web and more rungs on your ladder, you now become the thing that attracts people. Your own impact becomes the vibrational force. You are the one that people now attracted to. You become the lamppost that people fly to. You see how this works? And this is why now, 20 years in business, having not only survived, by the way, over 90% of businesses don't even make it through the startup phase of 3 years, an actual statistic from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, mirrored almost identically by every other first world country on the planet. It is my right and my reward to now actually be able to have the balls and the permission to now say, I have genuinely built a personal brand. So here I am, the frickin' Sarah Cordiner Show. So I'm going to leave you with this message. As I opened, your business will only grow to the level at which you are willing to be seen. Your reputation will only expand to the degree to which you help people. And your legacy will only go on to be built to the degree to which you leave people feeling better and different than when you found them. So, my darling friends, where do you need to give yourself more permission to take front and center stage, to own more of who you are, to show up with your personality that is going to be the conversion point as AI takes over in traffic generation? Your soul, your entity, and your spirit now needs to be the converter even more than it's always been. And when can you start doing that? Because I reckon it should be today. Thank you so much for listening to this first episode of the Sarah Cordiner Show. Do make sure that you hit subscribe so that you get notified of all future updates. I will be dropping different lengths of episodes on all different topics around business, including providing you with regular updates around tech, tools, AI, and automation news so that you both stay on top of what's happening currently, as well as those long-term strategies that we need to be implementing to grow as business owners. This show was sponsored by Techmatics, which is an AI-powered all-in-one business platform that comes with a whole team of support staff to be your tech partner in business. Thank you so much for coming to the Sarah Cordiner Show. We'll see you in another episode soon. Bye for now.